Good morning and happy Labor Day weekend. You are listening to Asheville FM at WSFMLP, and if you're listening on your radio dial, you better be on 103.3. Maybe you're streaming us this morning at www.ashevillefm.org. By the way, you can find all of your favorite shows on archive for a week after they've been on air, just checking out on our website. So it's kind of cool to do that, because not everybody can be up at 9 o'clock or whenever. So, folks, good morning and welcome to the Dreamers and Doers Show. We are the show that is live and we are local. And each Monday at 9 a.m., we attempt to bring you people from our local arts, nonprofit, or entrepreneurial sectors. Actually, today, I think my guest qualifies for all three. We've got 3 in 1 today here. And, folks, what we're trying to do on Dreamers and Doers is simply this. We know we all have dreams. We all want to materialize, manifest certain things, but not everybody gets there. So what we're hoping today, like we try to do every Monday morning, is inspire and inform you, too, to become a doer and a dreamer. One or the other doesn't quite get it. So my guest today is really no exception. I really do have the pleasure of meeting somebody I consider a friend, but more importantly, I hope she considers me a devoted fan. And that is Kate Steinbeck. And I want to tell you a little bit about her before we get into the meat of why we're here today. Kate's originally from Haywood County. She grew up in these parts. I think somewhere around the 8th grade, she discovered that there was a thing called a flute. And in the 7th grade, she discovered there was something to do with making music. And along that path, she's traveled. She went to the state North Carolina School of Arts, but she also was a graduate of the Baldwin Wallace Conservatory in Cleveland. Mm-hmm. She studied under William Hebert. And I like the comment he once made. He directed her toward chamber music because he felt her talent would have been wasted in an orchestra. She also went on to be their first Fulbright scholarship recipient and was able to study for 3 semesters in Belgium. And she also did post-grad work at the San Francisco Conservatory of Music. And what she finally did about 1997, she came back to her roots here in North Carolina, maybe because she had a baby then and established a family with, should we give Chris a plug?
Sure.
Chris Abel, well-known international flute maker. So
right here in Asheville.
And so this is the other half of Asheville's first family of flutes, Kate Steinbeck. And she put together this amazing, and one of the big reasons we're here this morning is she put together an amazing program called Panharmonia. Oops. I'm kidding. Panharmonia.
Slow down.
And Panharmonia is a chamber music group. And just think about this for a second. In 2 decades, it's not that easy making a living being a professional musician, and we can talk a little bit about that dynamic later on. But what I like about this, in her 2 decades, Panharmonia has delivered over 300 concerts. They've worked with an aggregate of over 99 different musicians, storytellers, artists. They certainly have a record for raising the bar and bringing an awareness to classical music here to not only Asheville people, but Western North Carolina. They certainly have developed a really good relationship with working artists and paying them well. And I think one of the other things that I like best is they've allowed Kate has allowed for creativity to challenge and delight us for years and years and years. They've played they don't have a physical home like the symphony does. So this is even better for us folks. You might see them in a church. We've even seen you, Harry's on the Hill, a Cadillac dealership. We've seen you at some beautiful homes and house concerts.
Galleries.
And galleries, art galleries, Hain Gallery being one of them. And you just never know. So what I'd like to do is just ask Kate Steinbeck, our guest today, to talk a little bit about your upcoming 20th season, and then we'll talk very specifically about one of the programs a little bit later. So Kate, I was just curious to ask you, why Panharmonia? How did it get its start? And when you first arrived here in, I guess it would be 1997, music, well, Asheville wasn't Asheville then. Is that fair to say that we know it?
Good morning, Carol. It's really great to be here with you. I want to say how much I appreciate your advocacy for artists in this community as a supporter and an audience member and just a cheerleader. It's really so appreciated. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Okay. I wanted to say a couple things regarding to what you spoke about. I was actually born in New York City. My parents moved south when I was a child, and I spent my adolescence in Waynesville and started music in public school. So I really think it's important to support art programs in public schools because that's where we first connect as children. And I also want to say that I don't put music in a box. I don't think most musicians do when we throw these words around like chamber music or classical music. It's not really my terminology for what I do. I play music. I'm an instrumentalist and I play acoustic music. I got here with a 6-month-old baby and looked around and had no work. So I just started thinking, what can I do? And that's kind of how this came to be, Panharmonia.
And some of your first concerts, I think you started out working with basically people you knew, but not necessarily local people. So it kind of spread out. But I guess drop a few names. You've worked with a lot of local artists.
The very first concert I did was with a friend of mine who's a bassoon player in Washington, D.C., because I didn't know anybody here. And we played a concert in the Basilica, St. Lawrence.
Wow.
And the priest thought we had 500 people come. I don't know. It was a free concert in January of 1998. I played with a lot of great musicians, so I don't really want to name specifics because I don't want to forget anybody.
And after working with around 99 people, shame on you, you don't know. You're celebrating your 20th season now, and tell us a little bit about you're calling it. You want to celebrate women's creativity, and I don't know if the overall title is women's work. But tell us a little bit about what to expect from your 20th season. I know you're out of the box in early September, so just kind of give us a little rundown of what to expect. Because we never know what to expect from you.
Thank you.
It's always good.
We start a week from today in the Hain Gallery. That concert is sold out, but I just want to give a shout out to Chris Foley and Leslie and Brittany at the Hain Gallery because they've been so wonderful to us. We've collaborated with them for about 7 years. We have chairs, so we move into odd spaces. I own 65 chairs, Panharmonia does. That one we're going to be repeating in Brevard on Friday the 13th. It's a 5:30 concert, actually, because we're hoping that people would come out to Brevard, have an early concert, and then go visit the restaurants downtown on a full moon Friday night. But a real centerpiece of this season is our November sets, which is entitled Women's Work. And the centerpiece of that weekend of concerts, which is 8 through 10 in the area, November 8 through 10, is a brand new piece of music called Rubble Becomes Art by Dosha McKay. Somebody I admire professionally and who's also a dear friend of mine. I write grants and get funding annually from the North Carolina Arts Council. Knock on wood. So about 2 years ago, as I was contemplating coming up to 20 years of doing this, I thought we need to have kind of a bigger splash and not just do regular concerts, but we need some new music. So I thought of commissioning my friend who I had wanted to commission for quite a while. So it's kind of a two-part grant. The first year we were given funding to have the piece written. Most of it came from North Carolina Arts Council, but also a substantial part from our supporters here in Asheville. So it's a real local sentiment, the whole piece. And we wanted to highlight women. So we, and I'm saying we, Karen Wells, who founded Arts NC, it's our lobbying group in Raleigh for artists in North Carolina. If people don't know about that, you should check it out because they really advocate for artists in our state.
They're the ones that do the license plate. I think some of you have seen that around town.
Yeah.
That's one way to support it.
That's one way that they raise funds for their work. Karen Wells started that, and she had retired, and she was starting to help with grant writing, and I was getting burned out on grant writing, so it was a beautiful combination of timing and everything. And we together kind of percolated and got this up. What we did is we solicited women poets across our state to submit poetry on themes of inclusion and exclusivity, which is very timely in our fractured country. And we had a competition a year ago and got beautiful work submitted. It was hard to pick, but we chose 3. Dosha and Emeka from Malaprops adjudicated, and they did the first picking of the poems, and then I kind of chimed in at the end. And we have 3 pieces that are really beautiful that Dosha set to music, which are going to be premiered November 8th in Black Mountain. We're going to play it November 9th at North Carolina Writers Conference, which happens to be here in Asheville, and November 10th in Asheville. All this stuff is on our website, panharmonia.org. But anyway, these are extraordinary pieces, both for the poetry and the beauty of the music that Dosha writes.
I think they call those art songs, don't they, when they take written word and then they make a musical composition around it.
And I kind of like to use that word for what I do, art music. The works are for mezzo-soprano, flute, bassoon, and guitar, which is kind of quintessential panharmonia. Who would think of putting flute, bassoon, and guitar together? But it isn't.
Only you, Kate. No.
No, I don't think so. But it's remarkable sound because you got all the bases covered. It's really beautiful. This is about a 14-minute work. And
who are your artists in each discipline?
Our mezzo is Brittany Simon, who lives in Brevard and teaches at Brevard College. She's a really smart, fantastic singer. Myself on flute. Amy Brooks is our guitarist, and she and I have collaborated for a really long time. We kind of forget how long. I think it was 2004 when we started. And then Rosalind Buda is our bassoonist, and Rosalind is also a Celtic player. She has her own little Celtic corner inside Panharmonia and presents Celtic music. She has a concert this month as well, in September. So yeah, that's our ladies, and we're gonna also have some local actors and prominent people be reading the poetry at the events.
Oh, very nice. Very nice.
We want the poetry to be really heard on its own before we play it, because we really want it to permeate into people.
And this is part of a grant money from the North Carolina
Arts Council.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the whole triptych of these songs is called Rubble Becomes Art, which I love that imagery. The first poem, called Dark Sister Sing by Sally Adkins, actually talks about the rubble of neglect. And then the second poem by Valerie Foote, The Secret, is actually about sexual abuse, which I thought was very timely to put into this collection. And then the final poem, Lemniscates by Kathy Larson Sky, has a phrase in it, Rubble Becomes Art. And Dosha said, Kate, what are the chances that the first and third poem would have rubble in it?
This is beyond serendipity. It's cosmic. It's intentional.
You can say that.
I would think from a poet's point of view, to have your work then become musified, become music, would be an amazing accomplishment. So it'll be in 3 different movements, this piece, then?
Well, we're really... they've been so lovely, these women.
And they're all North Carolinians.
Yeah,
okay.
and they ended up, they're all in this area.
Wow.
So that just happened. It was not, this was a blind, the one reason that I was not in on the initial adjudicating was because I saw these poems come in to the office, so I didn't want to connect names with titles. So the other 2, Dosha and Emeka, they didn't know who anybody was. So that's why we had them on the front end of this. But it was really great because we had prize money for them, which apparently they didn't read on the internet, but we had all that information on our site. But I got to call them on Christmas Eve and tell them. It was really, really, really great.
I love that. Yeah. I wish you could see Kate smile now. Would you please read, and what did you choose to read today?
I'm going to read the 3rd poem in the triptych called Lemniscates. Lemniscates is another word for the infinity sign, which I had to look up.
I did too.
And it's really a beautiful, transformative work. So here is Lemniscates by Kathy Larson Sky. Dawn. A mule deer and her fawn graze on fallen apples. Our eyes meet and hold. Then their long necks bend again to fruit. My boot rakes a rain-soaked patch of mint. Green scent rises, tinged with forgiveness. In ancient Peshmerga caves, handprints in red ochre dance on scorched walls. Underground pools rise, soak crevice to ceiling with bright algae. Soft now, a dream. Shrill cries. A legion of eagles passes overhead, blocks the sun. Gray feathers float toward earth. Houses begin to shake and sing with the voices of the dead. Dishes tumble from their shelves. In Africa, they say of breakage, spirit has been set free. In the metropolis, sulfurous bubbles explode. Arctic winds clear the stink. Butterfly bushes burst the concrete, flutter with lapis, gold, orange. Jelly roll land writhes like a glittering emerald serpent, a belly dancer's sequined girdle. Fearless children ride its waves, shouting till nightfall. Sun returns. A kindergarten drawing. Benevolent cheeks, turnip round. Its lemon rays warm all. No more you, me, them. Rubble becomes art. How we live. A kind of thick bread, perfumed with herbs. That's Lemniscates by Kathy Larson Sky.
Kate, if this flute thing doesn't work out, I think you may have a career in reading or in acting.
You know, I did create an actor, so
that's true. That's
my daughter.
True. That's true. Folks, in a few minutes, we're going to have an opportunity to meet via phone Dosha McKay. But I would be neglecting if I didn't mention to you that our program support today is brought to you by Harvest Records, located at 415 Haywood Road in West Asheville. It's locally owned and operated. Harvest Records sells new and used CDs and vinyl, DVDs, magazines, cassettes, books, visuals, art, and more. More information, 828-258-2999 or at harvest-records.com. And while we're waiting for our phone in, I want to mention you and Dosha McKay, who is the composer of the music, and in other words, she's put music to the words of the three poets. And so you and Rosalind and Amy will be playing while Brittany's singing. Is that kind of how it's going? That's a very cool concept. I mean, that is obviously the peak of creativity when you really are intersecting all these different disciplines. Have you two worked together before, you and Dosha, or just know of her? Or?
I think we met. Ooh, I don't know. She'll know maybe 10 years ago or so.
Oh, okay.
We have admired each other's work and the caliber of each other's work. We've been champions of each other's work. But no, this is our first genuine collaboration like this. She's brilliant.
Yeah. I know in past concerts I've seen, it's not that unusual for you to feature original music by a composer, whether they're local. And, you know, quite frankly, you cast a big net. I mean, you're really, we can say, international. I know you travel frequently to Europe and you do concerts or work with other people in the industry. So your scope of who you know and what you know is really, you're global.
I try to keep my mind open to everything. I did program one of her string quartets in 2016. Yeah.
And let's just a little bit of background about Dosha, because you'll be hearing from her in a minute. We really think of her as being a Renaissance woman in heart. Dosha McKay is also a flutist, a visual artist, a writer, and an amateur cellist. She currently resides in Knoxville, Tennessee. And Dosha's had her work in concerts. She's had her work on film, modern dance. It's been written about her that she's composed music which eloquently and expertly describes the human condition. It's long, luxurious melodies. And it politely refuses to be pigeonholed. Apparently, Dosha's known she's known as a music colorist, but she also draws from classical background, from Slavic folkloric material, from ambient music, from more modern music, I guess if you could say, or avant-garde music. So it sounds like I can see where there's a good fit between the two of you. You're open. You're open to the heart experience, or you're just open to being informed about things that you don't know or you're not aware of, and then you weave that little tapestry there of kind of assimilating those things.
That's lovely, Carol.
So Dosha, I know, will be calling in just a minute, but just a little background on her. If I'm not mistaken, she's originally and born and raised in Poland, and probably would have been Iron Curtain, Poland at the time, if I've got the dates jiving. And she's studied in prestigious places in Europe. And she's been in the United States, would you know, best guess, 20, 30 years?
25,
or about 25 years. And it's it's interesting to me that she's known as a painter to some people. Some people would consider her a writer. You, of course, are considering her, or would consider her as a composer.
And I call her a triple threat.
A triple threat.
Or maybe she's up to quadruple threat now.
I did see a presentation that you all did at Malaprops earlier, and she said she sometimes feels guilty. Oh, I should be painting. No, wait, I got to compose because I have a deadline, or I have to get together with some folks later on. So these voices in her head, but a lot of that, I would imagine, ends up in the music that she writes. So where are you right now with this program? Are you in rehearsal already?
Right. We had our second rehearsal on Saturday, actually. It's a
sounds intense to me.
Very substantial work. She's really got the guitarist working hard. Yeah.
Amy's up to the task. I've heard her play. And your singer during this, Brittany will be singing in each three of those movements, because it's just word for word the poem.
It's all interwoven. I mean, it's
And 14 minutes seems like it's a fairly long time, is it?
Yeah, each one is about 4 minutes long, give or take, yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And the first time we will get to see that is that at St. James in St. James Episcopal Church in Black Mountain.
Right, November 8th. It's a Friday night.
Yeah, I suggest you mark your calendar because I hate to say it, but don't go last minute thinking you'll get a ticket because I'm guessing you won't. And I know I sound like this is a sales pitch. It's not. I'm just talking. Parking is excellent there, by the way.
We try to not play in huge spaces because she's calling in.
I think we've got a call in here.
Yeah, we try to play in smaller spaces, so it's a very intimate, personal experience.
Good morning, Dosha.
Good morning.
And how are you?
Good. How are you, Carol? I'm Kate.
Well, we're doing very well, and Miss Kate is here. Are your ears burning? We've been talking about you for the last 5 minutes, and it's not every day our Asheville listeners can have a Renaissance woman online, and we welcome you. And Dosha, I was wondering if you could talk a little bit. We've heard a lot of background now. A little bit about your the work that you've been doing on When Rubble Becomes Art. Your role as the composer.
Well, I feel extremely privileged that I could work with Kate on this work. I wanted to officially thank her for commissioning me to do this monumental work, celebrating her 20th anniversary with San Harmonia. I think that's a real privilege. I have known Kate for a few years. I think it was, let's see, could it be 2011 that we met for the first time?
Yeah.
Junior high?
No, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
And the privilege is mutual, my dear. You know that.
Well, thank you, Kate. Yes, so we talked with Kate for a couple of years, I think. Kate wanted to commission something, and she wasn't quite sure, and I waited for her prompting and her ideas, and so we finally decided that setting words to music would be appropriate, and yes, so a year ago, roughly, I think, it was a bunch of poems came my way, and I had to sift through all of them. And I just wanted to make a comment about that because usually I'm on the other end applying, for different opportunities.
The shoe's on the other foot.
And this time I was on the other end, being on the judging end. I just really never expected how difficult it would be to judge other artists' work. Mm-hmm. And I remember there were a few poems where I could not decide. It was very difficult to make the final decision, but the 3 poems that we selected, I think, worked very well together.
It's very interesting, and Kate pointed out, and I think you discovered too, the use of the word rubble. What are the odds in 2 of the poems?
And that actually I did not even notice that until I started working with them. Until I started composing music. So that wasn't even a conscious choice. We were trying to select poems to make them into a cohesive triptych that would unfold a certain message. Mm-hmm. We wanted the poem to touch on different issues, but at the same time, be cohesive, be connected, but that specific wording did not even jump out at me until much later. Mm-hmm. So, some choices, some coincidences happen, I think, independently of us, and we just are lucky enough to have them land on our laps, so to speak.
It's the cosmic way, I think. There's an intentionality there, unbeknownst to us. I think Carl Jung would have called it a synchronicity, but I'm just curious, as a non-musical person, do words have melody, the word itself, or do they have a pattern that you can then put down with drawing those little circles and bars, things called notes? How does that work?
Every language has a melody. Every phrase has a melody and has a shape. The way we speak, we accentuate certain syllables, certain words. So it has to be reflected in music. I mean, maybe the words don't have specific pitch. They don't have specific melody, but they do have shape and they have a direction. And certainly with poems, not only do they have, the phrases have shape, but they also have emotional intensity.
Mm-hmm.
So, the music obviously is not spelled out in words. This is my job to add the music to the poetry, but there is, I feel there's a certain direction that I am able to follow as a composer. And as a matter of fact, that was probably one of the biggest challenges for me in this entire work, was to honor the poet's intent. I was, obviously very honored to be commissioned and to work with Kate. I wanted to do a great job. And then I started reading the poems, and I thought, oh my goodness, what have I gotten myself into? And will I be able to do this? Because I just felt such a responsibility to these words, and I thought, okay, not only do I want Kate to be happy, I want panharmonia musicians to be happy, but now I feel I have such a responsibility also to the poets to be faithful to their original intent. And I thought, what if I really didn't want to mess it up.
Right,
I
right.
wanted to be faithful to their vision. So it was quite a challenge.
I have a feeling when the poets arrive at whatever concert they choose to attend, I think they're going to be pleasantly surprised just based on what I'm hearing both you and Kate talk about. I'm just curious, too. There's 3 distinct movements that you've created. Is there a musical genre you can ascribe to that, each of those movements, or an overriding genre type? I'm going to rule out rock and roll, but I mean, other than that, or rhythm and blues, maybe. I don't know. Is there some way that some specific type of music that goes with and fits each one of those poems?
I will have to echo Kate's words and simply call these poems art music.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I do for the most part as a composer. I have done some what we would loosely call classical music or experimental music, but like Kate, I like to put everything under the same umbrella of really art music.
Okay.
And I think maybe, 200, 300 years from now, there will be scholars who will be able to better categorize all the trends of music that we are in right now. It's so hard to, pigeonhole yourself
right.
and say, oh, this is the genre that I do.
Mm-hmm.
I think art music would be what I would like to call it for
okay.
now. And
mm-hmm.
in the future, someone will call it something else.
But
because, we are, I'm not sure we can call ourselves classical.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's so hard to, I know in certain circles, some of my friends like to say, oh, I write new music, new classical music, but that's almost an oxymoron, isn't it? To say
right.
new classical.
And you know what I always say, Dosha, is that classical was our education. Some people have a classical education. They study Greek and the old languages and things like that. Our education in music was classical, but it's really not limited to...
It's a jumping off place.
Right. I mean, I don't play Mozart that often.
Yeah. I guess you both are in the position, having been world travelers, and I know you were born in Eastern Europe and Poland. You have different influences, and it would seem to me a wonderful thing that you can kind of blend. It's almost like a beautiful, I'll use a food analogy, a beautiful salad, rich with a lot of different ingredients.
Oh, we have more. We're way more than salad, aren't we, Dosha? We're meat.
You're
meat and really nice vegetables.
And Dosha, I hope we're going to see you in Asheville sometime in November. Is that right?
Yes, I will be present for all 3 premieres.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And what are you currently working on?
Currently, I am working on a new orchestral piece.
Uh-huh. And I understand you have a novel you've recently published called The Flow?
The Flow is still with my editor, and so I'm awaiting to hear back from her within the next 4 weeks or so, and hope to release the novel probably in the early fall. That will be my goal for now.
Okay, well, keep us posted. I love psychological thrillers, and I'm looking forward.
Okay.
And before we let you on with your busy day, I was just curious, tell us a little bit about the experience of working with Kate and the other artists. I know you had some comments to make that I thought were very interesting when you all were at Malaprops about how you consulted with them before you began writing the compositions.
Well, we composers don't create in the vacuum, and my philosophy is that if I am commissioned to write music, I consider this a tailored work, so that, I want to write for specific musicians, for specific context, and I want them to not only be happy about the music, but to be, inspired and, be advocates for the music as well. But it doesn't happen if I just write the music to please myself. So just on a very technical level, I have to understand the idiomatic behavior, so to speak, of the instruments, but also how they relate to each other in a quartet. For example, in the case of this particular quartet, you have issue of the ranges of the instruments. I have to be careful not to allow them to clash with each other. I have to be careful how the soprano is placed, how the guitar is placed within the quartet, and a whole bunch of technical issues that we take a lifetime to study. So yes, I consulted individually with every player and asked them about their instrument and maybe about their past experiences with contemporary music and challenges of their instrument. Yeah. So we had very technical, very specific conversations about that. And I was trying to honor that. I wanted every instrument, and of course the voice, but also the instruments. I wanted each instrument to have an important role to play. I didn't want any instrument just to be a background accompaniment part, but I wanted for every instrument to have something to say throughout the piece. And I think it comes across in the finished product.
Yeah, I like my part.
She likes her part. That's saying, I think, a lot.
I want to add to that. She also interviewed the poets and really took time and care to understand their intentions. It is fascinating to see her process. I think someone should make a film about that, Dosha.
Dosha, we have a lot of independent filmmakers here, and I have one in particular I'm going to invite to the Black Mountain concert just to see, to have an opportunity to meet with you. Dosha, I want to thank you so much today for taking time away from your, painting, writing, composing, and also a little later on in the day as we exit out, or what we call our outro, our going out music, we are going to play an excerpt from your album entitled
Glossolalia.
So
is that okay?
Yes, Glossolalia.
Dosha? Did I say it okay?
Glossolalia.
Glossolalia.
Yay!
Thank you.
And this is really...
and we'll be playing an excerpt as we leave. So stick around, folks who are listening, and hear a little sample of her music. So thank you so much, and I look forward to meeting you November 9th at St. James in
November
Asheville.
8th.
November 8th.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I just want to say
Thank you very much, Carol.
Glossolalia means speaking or praying in tongues, a spiritual practice.
Okay. Again, thank you so much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Carol.
Well, that was interesting, and I guess technically speaking, I'm glad it worked. Before we go on, I would like you to hear a little bit of Kate. And Kate, if you don't mind, just tell us what we're going to be listening to on one of your CDs. It's been recorded quite a while ago.
Yeah, this is from 2004 with my dear Byron Hedgepeth on marimba. We have a CD called Light in the Corner. Oops.
Okay, here we go. That's okay. You can talk over it. Okay.
So I don't know how much of our little chatter in between you all heard.
But it was relevant.
Let me tell you about that piece.
Please.
Yeah, that's from a collection of 3 works called Kembang Suling by Gareth Farr. Gareth Farr is a New Zealand percussionist, and he's also really into, in the LGBT, I'm messing everything up in the morning, community in New Zealand. He's a brilliant composer and percussionist. And Kembang Suling is kind of a Pan-Asian sonata. The first movement is what you just heard, called Bali. The Suling is the Balinese bamboo flute, and that was myself, Kate Steinbeck, on flute, on a wooden flute, A-bell flute made by my husband here in Asheville, and Byron Hedgebeth on marimba, and that's from a number of years ago, from our CD entitled Light in the Corner. Yeah.
What is your website, by the way? Because we've went through a lot of information, so I want to make sure people have a reference.
You. Panharmonia, Panharmonia, panharmonia.org. You can think of the two Greek gods, Pan and Harmonia. She's the daughter of Ares and Aphrodite. She's the goddess of order and symmetry. If you Google my name, Kate Steinbeck, it'll come up as well. A lot of different ways to get there. Yeah, so I appreciate you having me on today, Carol.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you a little bit about, not only do you challenge yourself with bringing exciting programs for the audience and creating a musical experience for them, I think you've made, quote, concert music, classical music, very warm and friendly, very approachable.
Thanks.
When I go to your concert, number one, I'll usually see people I know, but more importantly, you're one of the few musicians that I'm aware of. You engage with the audience. You establish not just eye contact, but you give us some nice chat. It's not idle chit-chat, but it's relevant to the music. But we see the Kate coming out, too. I see passion. I see dedication. And so I think we'd be remiss if we didn't ask you to comment just a wee bit on your Guiding Light program and also your community concert. I know that's a ways away in December, but not only do you play well, you do good works too.
Thank you. For about 7 years, we've had an outreach program called Shining Light Project that is underwritten by private donors, and we try to bring music out to people that have no access in prisons and homeless shelters. We go to some day clubs for seniors, also for people with mental disabilities, I guess we can say. Yeah, it's just really meaningful. Every December, Panharmonia produces a free concert, a community benefit concert. We like to support good doers in our community, social organizations making a difference. We helped Pisgah Legal last December, and this December our benefit concert is for beloved Asheville, helping homeless people. It is also to benefit our mini Baroque festival that we're doing called Bountiful Baroque in March. Panharmonia's season runs through April or May. In January, after our benefit concert, we have Back to the Bassooniverse, a concert of 5 bassoons.
Wow, that's unusual, isn't it?
Yep, we're the only ones doing it in the area.
Do they have different tenors, or are they? I don't know how that
5
works.
bassoons. You got to come check it out.
All right.
In February, we have another Celtic Corner with Rosalind Buda and the Tune Shepherds. In March, we're going to have, as I said, our mini festival over a weekend, late March, of Bountiful Baroque. That's with Gail Schroeder, who also produces our Asheville Baroque concerts. She's an early music virtuoso that happens to live here in Asheville. And and then in April we finish out in the Hain Gallery with flute and harp.
Wow.
And there's other events going on through the year that didn't make it into the brochure, but check us out, Asheville. Yeah. We love you, and we appreciate the curiosity and open-mindedness of this community, and we hope that you include this music in your palette.
Yeah, and don't forget, there's a thing also called End of Year Giving. That's also just a quick comment on that. Almost all of our artist groups here in our community are .orgs, which means they're nonprofit, and they've went through the legal process of that.
Yeah, drowning in paperwork, as I call it.
Yep, and part of that is so that they can get grants, and then also so they can get donations. Unbeknownst to a lot of people, ticket sales, I don't care if we're talking about the Cellular Center, which has the huge footprint, 5,000 people, or we're talking about the scale of an audience of 100 or more. Ticket sales don't get it.
No.
Even if ticket sales were 3-digit numbers, it still doesn't support it. So all artists rely on grants, donations, serendipitous benevolence, generosity. But like most musicians or most people who are gifted, sometimes it's hard to ask.
Yeah,
my goodness,
it never gets easy.
This lady has academic credentials that would put her in any orchestra throughout the country.
I'm not an orchestral player.
But if you were, if they looked at your credentials, they're there. So I guess make an appeal upon all artists that they do rely, don't they, to some extent on donations.
Well, most importantly, audience.
Come out. Come and see.
Come out.
Yeah, come and see.
That's where our relationship starts, because we don't get donations from
strangers.
Drop from the sky. It's all about relationships, and that's what we all need to get.
Yeah.
It's all about relationships. Yeah. Healing our country is about relationships. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, I think the three things that your poems, and again, going back to Rubble Becomes Art, is healing, reconciliation, and transformation.
Yes.
And then when I was reading that over the weekend, I said, oh my gosh, this is where we are as a country. Not to make a political comment, but to make a human comment about who we are.
Yes, this was a very, very timely project. I hope people will come out for it. We're going to be playing it locally November 8th through 10. We are anticipating taking it across the state, and we will end up at the Raleigh Museum of Art, North Carolina Museum of Art, May 17th. So we're waiting on a couple other grant proposals to see if we can take it to other places in the Piedmont and the coast. So we really want to get it across our beautiful state. It's a gift to North Carolina.
So November 8th, we've established, is at St. James Episcopal in Black Mountain. And where else are you then?
November 9th, we are at the North Carolina Writers Network Conference in Asheville. We're the keynote presentation.
So that'll be private, won't it?
No, it's for members. It's not really private. You can get a membership and get in. I think their stuff went online yesterday.
Okay.
That's a really good organization. We have a ton of writers in our beautiful state, the bountiful land of North Carolina. And Sunday, November 10, in Asheville. So the venues are online, and tickets are online. This is tiered ticketing from $5 to $20. We have $10 and $15 tickets.
Yeah,
I was supposed to say that, I guess.
Yeah,
but
anyway,
sorry about that. But it's really community organized and intended, so everybody can come out.
But I will say, Kate does not turn people away either, if that is her stumbling block. Folks, before we give you a little sampling of music from Dosha McKay, and Kate, will you tell us which piece we're going to be hearing in a minute of hers? And I'm not going to try to pronounce the name of the album again.
First in Flight.
Okay. And the album, I think if you Google Dosha McKay, you can get more information. It's Glossa something. It's tricky.
Glossolalia.
Thank you. Folks, I want to remind you, too, that if you're curious about what goes behind the scenes on a community radio station and you like meeting people who like music as much as you do, Asheville FM is looking for volunteers to help with production, party planning, music reviews, and more. It could be as simple as talking about your love of community radio while relaxing at the Asheville FM table at live concerts, or as complex as researching news headlines, interviewing musicians, community activists who make a difference in Asheville. So visit ashevillefm.org/volunteer. Find out there's a place here for everyone, how you can help bring news and quality music. So without further ado, Dosha McKay.
First in Flight.